Tile is great for both kitchen and bath. It's durable, waterproof, and real easy to keep clean.
An extensive tile job like this might look complicated, but we're going to show you the techniques that you need to know in a simpler bathroom to do your own tile work.
Yeah, tile setting is not difficult. Even a beginner can get a great job the first time.
Well, want to get started, Les?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, I have to admit, our new tub enclosure just turned out great.
Yeah, it's one of the best looking tile jobs I ever saw.
You know, a lot of do-it-yourselfers are concerned about getting the horizontal and the vertical lines just right. But if you follow the steps correctly, you can hardly miss.
And we had so much fun doing the tile and tub enclosure, we're going to start on the floor, and we're going to show you how to do that. But before we do anything else, we're going to have to clear the way for our work. We've taken our toilet up, and we've taken the vanity out, so the entire floor is clear.
The first thing you need to do is you need to prepare your floor surface. Now, you can lay tile over many different kinds of existing floors, but a typical situation is you'll be laying it over a 3/4 inch subfloor. That's a little bit too springy for tile. It could cause the tiles to pop up. So what we did is we applied a 1/2 inch heel-proof plywood underlayment. So once we've got a nice, smooth, even surface, then we're ready to start laying out our working lines.
In the course of laying our tile floor, we're going to build it up so much that we wouldn't be able to open our bathroom door. So in order to mark how much we have to trim off the bottom of the door, we take a scrap of our subfloor, 2 tiles, one for the tile we're going to lay on the floor and one for some clearance, slide it over here to the door, and just make a mark like that. That'll tell me exactly how much I have to cut off. Then right at the end of the job, we're going to use this marble threshold to finish off our door.
A common mistake that people make when they're cutting their door is cutting it freehand, and it comes out all wiggly and wavy. So what we've done is we've set up this nice straight edge and clamped it to the door and set it up so that the base plate of the saw runs right along that edge and is going to give us a nice, clean, straight cut.
Our subfloor is in, the door is out. Now comes the most critical part of our tile job, and that's laying it out right. If we put that first tile down wrong, the whole job's going to look weird. We're going to have crooked tile lines. We're going to end up with little pieces like this at the end of our rows, and both of those things are unacceptable. Now, how do we start laying it out? First, we find out what is the focal point of the room. In this case, it's our bathtub wall. And so what I've done is arbitrarily come out 5 tiles here, and I've snapped a perfectly straight line completely across the room, as you can see here. Now, the reason I've gone 5 tiles back here is I'm going to end up with a full tile against the focal point in the room, and that's exactly what I want. Now, the next problem is I don't want to get those little pieces at the end of my rows. And the way I do that is, see this mark here? This is exactly in the center of the room, and by actually laying the tiles out here, I know that I'm going to end up with equal-sized tiles at the end of each row. They'll be a little over a 1/2 a tile wide, and they'll be the same at the end of each row. So now I'm ready to lay that first tile. This is where all the careful prep work really pays off.
It sure does. Okay, now we're into spreading our pancake batter, and we're fully equipped with our trusty knee pads. And Les is spreading the same mastic we use on the tub enclosure, which is a moisture-resistant mastic, great for bathrooms. Now first he's spreading with a trowel using the flat side, creating a skim coat, and then going over it again with the notch side so that we have a good peak on our mastic, which will create a nice, good adhesion for the tile. You only want to spread as much adhesive as you can work with before it sets up. Once you've spread an area of adhesive, take your first tile and center it on your line. Gently twist the tile first into place. Never slide it in, as you can move the adhesive to one side. Because of the slight color variations in tile box to box, it's a good idea to pull tiles out of a couple different boxes as you go. As you work, take a piece of padded wood like a 2x4 that's been covered with old carpet or an old towel, just something protective. And then with a mallet, beat the tiles to be sure they're adequately seated into the adhesive. These tiles are going down fast, and as we get to the end of the row, we need to make our straight cuts, and they're very easy to make on this tile cutter. We know that the tiles need to be cut at 3 inches, so I set it into position by this gauge. Then at the bottom, right here of the handle, there's our cutting wheel. So we run our cutting wheel across, scoring the line. You just want to score that line once. You don't need to do it twice. Then we take these 2 wings here at the back of the handle and gently depress it till it snaps. There we go. Pull the tile out and snap it into position.
Let me show you a couple of different ways to make that radius cut around the toilet flange. Now let's say this is what we want to do. Probably the simplest way is to use a tile nipper. This is available at your tile supply store, and it just takes a little bit of cuts out. Now if you get a little too ambitious, let me show you what happens. I'm going to put the full blade on there. I go right through my line. You can't do it that way. You have to take little bitty bites, just like that, and go right up to your line. If you get that kind of a motion, you'll be very accurate in making these cuts. Takes a little practice, but they're easy to do. Now another thing you might want to consider is a machine that'll do the same thing for you. You can use a grinder like this with a diamond wheel, or you can use your jigsaw with a special ceramic blade inserted. Let me show you how that works. Make sure you have that tile securely fastened down. That works pretty nicely. Now there may be an occasion where you want a pipe to come right through the center of a tile. There's 2 ways to handle that situation. It might be a supply line coming through the floor or something. You can cut the tile in half like this, and with your nippers, take out both sides. Or you can use a hole saw with a special carbide tipped on it, put it in your drill. Let me show you how that works. You can rent or borrow a hole saw like this from your tile supply dealer. Isn't that slick? Now here's a wonderful machine for cutting tiles very easily. It's like a little table saw. Has a diamond tipped blade that runs in water in here, and you can make angle cuts and all sorts of odd little bits of things. It's completely dust free because of the water, so you can use it in the house and it won't create dust flying all over the place. And it will also cut materials other than tile. Things that you can't score and snap like you can these tiles, such as brick pavers and flagstone. Let me show you how it works. Isn't that easy? That really makes cutting tile a snap.
The tiles we're using have spacers or lugs built into the sides of the tile. If your tiles don't have these spacers, you'll need to provide your own by using molded plastic spacers and then removing them before you grout. Lay the tiles going row by row, but run them from the center to the end walls and then cut the tiles as needed once you hit the end. Work towards the door so that you don't paint yourself into a corner. We're down to the finish line now and laying our tile, and I'm just laying the final few base tiles that go up the side of the wall. We recommend that you do something like this either with tile or a piece of wood. So all I need to do is just butter the adhesive right on the back. Butter it on, and then slap it into position. Now we need to let the adhesive set up for at least 24 hours, and we're ready to mix our grout and apply it.
Some people have trouble putting grout down, especially if you haven't had much experience. The problem is the grout won't completely fill the cracks, and after a few days or a few weeks it'll pop back out again, or there won't be complete grout lines, or it won't be waterproof for some reason. We have to be careful to do that. For these tiles that fit very closely together, we've chosen an unsanded grout. That's an important start. And the next thing we're going to do is put some of this latex admixture into the grout along with some water. We're going to mix it 50-50 with the admixture and the water. This makes the grout much more waterproof, much more plastic, and it'll stick better. If we use pure admixture, what we'd end up with is a grout that would be very difficult to clean off the surface of the tiles after we're through, so we want to avoid that. So there's the admixture. There's 50% water. And we're going to mix this carefully until it's the consistency of soft ice cream. That's what we're looking for. Once we get to that consistency, according to the manufacturer's instructions, we're going to let it slake for about 5 minutes. Then we're going to mix it one more time, and then we'll be ready to use it. This is going to take a little more water and a little more admixture. After the grout's been mixed up, it'll be workable for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Once it sets up too much, just throw it away. Don't try to mix it again or add more water to it, because it just won't work. The chemical changes in the grout itself, and it will not produce good grout lines. You just have to keep mixing till you get the right consistency. If it gets a little too wet, you can always add a little more grout. And we're just about ready to go. Once this sets for about 5–10 minutes, mix it again, and it's ready to use. Look at that beautiful consistency.
It's good enough to eat.
Well, let's not do that, but we can spread some on the floor now.
Okay, so now we're ready to start spreading this grout. I'm using this squeegee and running the grout at a diagonal across the lines, making sure that I'm pressing it into all the lines. And we're also doing this in blocks. So we'll squeeze it in a certain area, and then we'll wipe it down. We want to do it this way so that the grout doesn't dry before we can get back to it. I've got to get it up against the tub. Okay, once we've got it into the lines, then we actually use the squeegee to wipe it away. Then after we've scraped away the excess grout, we take the end of our nippers and just press that grout right into those lines. We're just running it along those lines.
And when that's done, we'll take a damp sponge, go over the whole area that you've done with a damp sponge. Oh, this looks great now. And what I'm doing, after you're finished with your sponging, you'll see a slight haze form all over the surface of the tiles. Go back with a piece of cheesecloth, wipe that off, and you'll see it really sparkle. Then the next thing you want to do is, with your caulk gun, run a bead of caulk right along the bathtub seam where it joins the tile and around the toilet after you've got that reinstalled. Then wait about 3 weeks for this grout to really cure well, and with some silicone sealer, go over the entire floor. It'll make it perfectly waterproof, and that'll be the finishing touch for a beautiful tile job.
We've been just rolling along with the floor job, and we're actually at the final phase of reinstalling our toilet. So to do that, the first thing we want to do is position the wax ring, and this creates the seal between the toilet and the drain. You want to be sure that the wax ring is at least at room temperature, so it spreads somewhat and creates a tight seal. Now, if you're in a position where you've raised the floor level a fair amount, you probably want to use a wax seal with an extension sleeve like this. Put the wax ring on the bottom of the toilet and then mount the toilet over the flange bolts. Tighten down the toilet bolts. Pack plumber's putty in the bolt caps. Attach the supply line on the side. Finally, caulk around the base of the toilet to prevent water from getting underneath the toilet. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Solid as a rock. Well, I think this bathroom turned out beautifully.
Yeah.
I hope you folks agree that tiling can be a wonderful do-it-yourself project.
You know, not only that, I know for me that when I walk into a space where I've tiled the floor or built a cabinet, whatever I did, I feel all the better about where I live. And even more than that, I feel good about what I was able to do. It's not that hard, but it still makes you feel good. It's good for your esteem, don't you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. But before we get out of this bathroom and put our tools away, we've got one more thing to do.
Which is?
Put a countertop on this.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot.
This is what we're going to use.
Yeah, I like it. It's nice. Now, what we need to do is we need to cut the plywood that will provide our base for the countertop.
Let's get busy.
Okay. The base for our countertop, we're using 3/4 inch exterior grade plywood. You want to use the exterior grade plywood as it holds up a lot better under the moisture conditions. Now I've already cut the plywood to the right size, but before I actually cut the hole for the sink, I've set up for a little cutting situation right here. You see, we've got a unique situation going because the tile that we're using doesn't come with a standard sink cap. So we need to create our own trim. We're going to use 3/4 inch solid oak, and then we miter it right here at the corner for a nice, sharp, neat-looking cut. Okay, now I'm set up to cut, as I said, and we've clamped our board into position. We've set it at 45 degrees, and so we're going to cut this miter with our miter saw by running it nice and gently down the side of our board. Okay, ready to go. We get to cut out the sink hole for our sink. Let me show you how I laid that out. I positioned the sink, I centered it end to end. Then I pushed it back so that we have as large a tile on the front as possible to prevent any breakage. Then I traced a line all the way around the sink. Now, if I cut to this line, the sink is going to drop right through. So, what I did is I drew another line on the inside, and we'll cut to this line, and we'll have a lip to support the sink. So now I'm ready to start cutting. Once we attach the trim, we want it to round over the edges so they're not sharp.
Well, we finished our little countertop, and we brought it in here, got it centered on the cabinet, and now we're going to snug it down with some drywall screws. Now, before we actually start sticking tiles down, we got to have some kind of a layout procedure here. Not as complex as the floor was because we don't have to draw any lines, but we do lay the tiles out, and you can see we've got 4.5 tiles to the back. We couldn't come out any further than this. And we pre-measure this so it would take 8 full tiles across the width of our countertop. The only other thing we have to do is make some marks here for the sink cutout. Then we're ready to put the mastic on and go.
Well, this is obviously not the best cutter for this particular tile. This tile is heavy and it's really hard. So our diamond cutting wheel is going to be perfect for our cuts. And we need to make the straight cuts for behind the backsplash and also the angle cuts to make that sink opening. Okay, so I'm going to cut her on. We're ready to roll.
We're spreading mastic on the countertop just as we did on the floor. We're using a slightly different trowel here because we want a deeper notch as the tiles are a bit thicker than the ones we used on the floor. These little plastic spacers are handy for getting your tile lined up right, but unfortunately this tile is so irregular that we can't use them. So what we'll do is use this framing square and get our grout line straight with that. Well, we're really cooking. We're down to the last tile, and now we're ready to start on our backsplash. Notice we don't put the mastic on the wall. We put it on the individual tiles because it would be too difficult to do it on the wall itself. The tiles we're using on the backsplash are different from the ones we're using in the field. The backsplash tiles are glazed on the edges. I'm using spacers here because gravity would pull these two tiles together here, and I wouldn't have any place to put my grout or caulk after the job is done.
Well, now we're into some fun stuff. We're going to tie our job together with the grout, and we've let the tiles set up for 24 hours. I'm just trying to get the spacer out without pulling the tile off. Okay, so To spread our grout, I'm just going to drop a dollop onto the tiles here. Then I'll take the squeegee, start spreading that out. I'm going to pack the grout using my finger, and then I'll wipe the excess with the sponge. I'm just running a bead of caulk now that we've got the sink installed. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll apply our grout sealer, and we are finito. By visiting a tile showroom, you can see all different styles of tile for a variety of different kinds of locations and situations. Hey, Les, this blue earth stone might look great for that countertop in that bathroom. Take a look at it.
It's not bad. You don't think it'll show a lot of toothpaste dribbles, do you?
I think it'll go great with the tub enclosure.
The color's perfect. How do you like some of these floors here?
I think they're really nice. I've never seen this kind of inlaid wood with the tile before.
That's a great idea. I don't think it would work in a bathroom, but there's some other things here I'd like to show you.
Let's take a look.
All right. It used to be, if you wanted a mosaic tile look, you had to put little things like this up one at a time. But now the tile manufacturers have made it easy for you and attach those small tiles to a 12-inch flexible backing so you can put up a square foot at one time, and it really makes it easy. Usually mosaics are used on a floor, but they also work very well on walls. And even these big ones, 4 inches square, are mosaic tile. Whatever the considerations are that you have in choosing mosaics, if you like them, go for them.
Here's a small sampling of different kinds of painted or illustrated tiles. And some of them are single patterns on a single tile, and then other ones require a full set to complete the picture.
Here's some nice ideas for flooring. Look at this quarry tile. There's 2 different sizes of tile that have been laid next to each other to create this interesting pattern. Here's some pavers. I like these very much. These are handmade. Here's one that's been glazed. Here's one that's not glazed. You can see it comes in the hexagonal and also the square pattern. And here's my very favorite for flooring. It's this natural slate. And this is almost indestructible and very easy to take care of. Whatever you choose for your floor, don't pick anything with a high glaze because it can get really slippery and dangerous.
A quick design tip around color. If you use light or bright colors, it tends to make a space look larger, whereas the darker colors tend to shrink a place. If you're using a complex, ornate pattern, that will also make a space look smaller, whereas a simple pattern will make it look larger.
I want to show you what I did in my own bathroom at home. It's a little different than what we've done here using manufactured tiles because I used a handmade Mexican tile, and right over here you can see where just a outline of where the shower starts. Here's a detail shot of the inside of the shower. You can see the plumbing fixtures coming through there. That was a bit of a trick doing that, but it does use mortar techniques, not all that different really from laying tile. This is a picture of the pool that I built outside the house in the backyard. The pool is very naturalistic and used a lot of stonework, very similar to the stonework in the shower. You can't see very much of the waterfall here, but the waterfall is 10 feet high and the water cascades down into the pond from there. One thing we all expect from our home is comfort and peace of mind, and a beautiful job like this that you do yourself will give you some of that peace of mind. And you do it yourself. I'm Les Cizik.
And I'm Avian Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching.